Chainsaw Man Chapter 159 takes the previous events and it does a complete 180-degree turn, because if you thought that this motley crew of Chainsaw Man fan club members and the duo of Mitaka and Fami were going to run directly to save Denji, Fujimoto pretty much pulls out the rug right from underneath you. As the group is running through the facility looking for Denji, one of them finds a door that they believe to be an exit, and that's where the first red flag goes up. If there's one thing we know about doors in Chainsaw Man, it's that if there is a chance that there's something disturbing hiding behind that door, chances are there is something, whether it be Makima entering the door in Denji's mind to find out the truth about Denji's father, to Denji opening up the door so she could kill Power. Doors in Chainsaw Man, they have an emotional damage that tends to go hand in hand with the person reading, and it's no different with what's behind this door here. Behind the door, we see a holding cell with a bunch of these fake Chainsaw Mans that are all lumped in together with chainsaws, and they're coming out of their heads and coming out of their arms and appendages, and it's giving serious vibes of being inside of a loony bin. One of the guys is basically acting like one of those prisoners who starts reaching through the bars to intimidate the new guy, or the crazy guy who throws ketchup and other unthinkable things against the wall. The shock factor is there, and while it's not enough to traumatize us as readers who have seen Fujimoto do a whole lot worse in the series, especially in part 1 of the story, it's enough to freak out the kid who's looking through the door, which is the least of their problems. And the first ones to notice are Fami and Mitaka, because they immediately clock that public safety devil hunter who's just standing off to the side, and he's giving commentary saying that the people in that cell just the day prior, they're living normal everyday lives. They didn't think and ask that they would ever be here, and yet here they are. It's a dark moment because it gives us a glimpse into the darker side of humanity, how in one moment your entire life can change due to an unexpected set of events, and most importantly, events that are well outside of your control. There are times where you think you may have figured everything out or under control, but then life tells you, hey, you know nothing, like you're Jon Snow from Game of Thrones. Denji thought that he had a family in Power and in Aki, yet he watched that same family get killed, and he thought he had someone he could care for in Reze, but then Makima happened, and then he thought he had someone in Makima who cared for him, but then obviously he learned that Makima was gaslighting him the entire time. This is one of those moments where Fujimoto is taking the chance to once again show us this lesson, but through a different perspective. This time, the devil hunter from public safety starts going for the appeal to pity. He says that people are starting to turn into Chainsaw Man out of nowhere, and it absolutely baffles him. You see him trying to find reason behind madness, the way that people tend to do whenever they're grieving, trying to apply logic when sometimes there is no logic in life. Things just happen when you least expect them to. The way that Fujimoto has the guy laid on really thick is brilliant because it's a layered method of writing. Do people transform into Chainsaw Man because they're fanatics of Chainsaw Man? Do people turn into Chainsaw Man because they are under the influence of a devil? He's asking the questions, and he's doing it from the perspective of he's not really expecting any answers, but if he happens to find an answer, then so be it. It's basically hedging your bets, and it's a smart play because he's strategically bluffing where he doesn't have much to lose if he gets called on. He tries to add more to it by saying, what about my wife? Why is it that she did nothing wrong? She didn't turn into someone who worshiped the Chainsaw Man, and yet she's the one who got turned into Chainsaw Man. It's basically asking, what makes you guys so special, and why wasn't my wife special enough to be like you guys and unaffected like all the people outside of this room? He's trying to layer on some of the guilt while simultaneously buying some time, and then starts mentioning how his loving wife went from making him lunch every day to becoming a monster, a stark contrast, and he's questioning whether or not God even exists. And this is where we see some real growth from Mitaka, because even Mitaka, her radar is going off and she smells BS. Had this been earlier in Chainsaw Man Part 2, this whole speech, it would have worked on Mitaka in the past. She'd have heard this, and it would have been enough to get the walls that she sets up between herself and everyone else. It would have gone right between them, and it would have led to Yoru trying to make some snarky remark to warn her that this is all a trick. But here we see Mitaka not only take it at face value because she doesn't respond with a statement. She merely asks a question, and it's a simple one that gives you all the answer you need to know about a person that you're asking the question to. Have you ever done anything wrong yourself? And when this guy says, well, the only thing that he did wrong is that he had an affair on his wife, you know, right away, that's a load of crap. He said it in particular saying if there was only one thing, and then he follows it up with maybe, which that's the red flag that gave it all away with his lie. No human being, I don't care if it's Mother Teresa, no human being is perfect. And even the best person in the world, they did some dirt in the past, because nobody is ever that squeaky clean. And it isn't just one thing. They've done several things. So when this guy's like, well, I cheated on my wife, that might be the one thing I did wrong, that was the red flag to make Yoru take over. And you could see it when Mitaka's looking down. It's only to hide her eyes because Yoru's taking control. And as Makima tells us in chapter 1, you can tell when somebody is a devil by looking in their eyes. And you see the spirals in Mitaka's eyes form because Yoru says this is BS, because that lie he just told us, it was connected to his wife. It was meant to build on top of it. Yoru clocks it right away. That's the thing with liars. The really great ones, they understand that a good lie can't be 100% fabricated, and it also can't be something that sounds too good to be true, even when appealing to pity like this. And that's where he messed up. And of course, it's someone like Yoru who caught it, and she kicks Fami out the way, shouting that the guy is just trying to buy some time, and that's where all the chaos starts to begin. Katana Man has returned, and he one-shots the guillotine devil, which, as you guys told me in the last review, the last guillotine execution was in the 1970s in France, so that explains it. Chainsman said in the 90s, so of course the guillotine devil is going to be really weak. And just when Fami's about to be hit by the fiend from behind, Yoru drop kicks Fami out the way to avoid being hit, and we get the joke about Yoru needing to be gentle when moving people out the way. And she's all like, dude, I got one arm, give me a break, why don't you? Now what's interesting here is that Yoru went out of her way to save Fami twice, which means that Fami still has a bigger purpose to play in the story, and Fami is going to be needed as backup for Yoru. Those are calculated saves between Fami and Yoru here with those characters. Now, I'll say this. It's a good read by Yoru to take over Mitaka's body, but we got to be real here for a second. They got super lucky here. If Yoshida was able to take one arm, what do you think would have happened had that been Quanxi that came through the wall instead of Katana Man? Because she's on a completely different level, and he almost got the drop on them, which that just shows breaking Denji out of prison, it's gonna be a lot harder than they might have thought. Like, breaking into jail and breaking out, it's already hard. Most people, they try to avoid going to jail, let alone breaking into jail to break someone out. But this takes it to a different level in terms of difficulty when you realize what they're going up against. Katana Man, he's like a C-rank boss. And somewhere in the shadows, you got Quanxi, who is easily A-rank. The fights are lining up for this. It's about to set the stage for some really good conflict and storytelling, because there's so many different ways you can take this story-wise, because it's basically like trying to run the gauntlet of devil hunters before you get to Denji, and you know that they have to be fast, because they're literally cutting Denji up right now faster than you can click on the Reze video essay that you see on the screen. And if you do, you'll see not only why I love that character so much and why I hope she returns in this arc to save Denji, because she's Chainsaw Man's best character.